Hi, and welcome to my podcast, What's the Value of Addiction? My name is Brendon. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I've been sober since April 2022. On this podcast, I will share my journey and the tools I've used to create a life that is not perfect, but a lot kinder and truer for me. I hope it can be a contribution to you so that you know that no matter where you are on this journey, something truly different is possible. Okay, Vanessa, welcome to the What's the Value of Addiction podcast. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So we had a beautiful conversation yesterday, and I love what you were doing. So let's start with give people a little rundown on what you're actually doing with working with people.
Well, hello everybody. I'm honored to be here. So what I've been doing is creating possibilities within addiction recovery with using the tools, the access bars, as many of your listeners may know and probably have heard, just the gift that is. And so for about a year and a half now, I have been bringing it so far to 2 clinics and a couple of addiction recovery residential homes, where I've taught it to the clients that are at the clinic, where they are able to either receive from myself or they've been able to receive from each other. And it just has created lots and lots of healing and possibilities.
It's so beautiful. And I'm going to share with you guys the video that Vanessa put together with just, these people just inviting people to the bars and what they've received from it. And it was so beautiful to watch.
Yes, it gets me every time.
Oh, totally.
Every time.
And what I love too is it's just this thing where, so let me say first of all about the bars. Like when I first heard about the bars, it was, this is a tool to help you receive, and I was like, to help me what? I had no idea. Like receiving for me was, what do I get from this?
Yes.
I had no idea what actual receiving was. So to see them actually just show up, these people, was just awesome.
Yes. Yes.
So what have you noticed with, I guess, what have you noticed with, when they get in there, they've got all of this stuff going on, which we know addiction brings with it, to that first bar session?
Well, Brendon, to be honest, I'm really grateful that you brought up receiving, because I think that's energetically what they show on their face is, the relief that comes with, oh, that's what it feels like to receive. It's almost like they forgot what that feeling is, or may have not even ever been familiar with it. To receive without expectation, or to receive without wanting anything in particular. I mean, because I advise them when we go into it, please don't have any expectations of this. These are some things that maybe, could come up, but the more that you just flow with it, the more you're going to get out of it. And every single time it's fascinating, because I have individuals, including men, that are completely covered in tattoos, big muscles, these macho men. And to see them with the look on their face of what it looks like, or what I imagine they look like to their mother when she was cradling them in their arms, as a baby, like you see that on their face, because they are literally just feeling safe, and they are just feeling loved, and they're just feeling, just not needing to be doing anything, or just really being even.
Yeah. Well, that though, it's such an undervalued thing in our world right now. It's like, what are you doing, rather than that space of being. And so one of the things I wanted to bring up with you that we talked about yesterday was, you said, you've got men and women in these clinics. The women just take it and run. They're like, oh my God, like you got a clearing statement. You've got all of these tools. Like, yes, please. And I see that so much, like even with,
Yes.
the women that come to Access, they're bulldozers. They're like, give it to me now, and how do I
Yes.
change the world with it? How do I
Yes.
change my life and how do I change the world with it? And the
Yes.
men, it's a little different. And so what have you noticed with that, I guess, like you said, the men coming along and it's like, you know what, we're rough, we're tough, we don't receive,
Yes.
especially from other men.
Yes, yes. Well, I have to, first of all, ask lots of questions, which is also another access tool. I obviously don't ask them out loud. I have to prep myself, beforehand when I know today's the day. I sense it. We're going to do access bars today. And so, what will it take? How does it need to be said? How can it be received? And anything that gets in the way, pot and pock, I really try to set it up energetically. And then from there, it looks different for every group. I've had it where I get the men to sit down and they're laying
Uh-huh.
down, and then the other guys are behind them and they're away, like 3 feet away from them. And I'm like, okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, what you're going to do is you're going to move your chair closer. And then they're looking at each other and they move their chair closer. And I'm like, and you're going to put your hands here. And they all look at each other, that they listen. And I'm like, whew, that's what it took for this group, for me to just like go through it as if like nothing, like let's not talk about it, we're just going to do it. And then there's other groups where I maybe have to show some videos and like tell them a little bit about what it is and get them enticed, and get them excited. Sometimes we have to read maybe some passages about it and discuss it. It really looks different for every group, as it just depends on the group.
Yeah.
But what I love is just, they even come up shocked themselves. And then I even remind them that was only 20 minutes, because since we only have so much time at the clinic, typically it's 20, 30 minutes for each person receiving, and then they exchange. And so I always, when they get up and they look so relaxed and they look at me and I'm like, can you imagine what 60 minutes would be? That was
Yeah.
only 20 minutes, so that's when they really start getting excited and when they become familiar with it. And then when I really am grateful is when they start requesting it, when they request it
Yeah.
instead of me putting it on the agenda. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I would like to acknowledge also your willingness to be different with it, even with going in there with questions of, okay, what does this group require? That is so different. And I don't see that out there in the world when it comes to, well, a lot of things, but when it comes to addiction, here's the form and structure. Here's what you need to do. You need to follow these rules. And I mean, like I told you yesterday, I did a lot of AA, and for me, I needed that. I really needed the form and the structure, because for me, I had to see this is a problem, and I'm the only person that can change it. But the thing I guess I want to ask you about, because the way that you said that, like each group is different, I see each individual being so different with, addiction
Absolutely.
and how to work with it.
Yes, and that brings up another access tool that I'm really grateful for. Thank you to Susanna Mittermeier. A shout out to her for bringing the gift of pragmatic psychology, because they love having recovery, seeing recovery in a way of making it pragmatic.
Yeah.
Making it work for them. Because the minute that I teach that, especially to anyone that's new, the minute we have a new participant, and even the ones that have been there a while, they'll look at them and they'll be like, oh, get ready for this, because they've heard it already. And then I even have it in their orientation packet. Like, I prep them that early when they're welcomed into the clinic. You better get ready, because we're also going to talk about making your recovery pragmatic. What is that? And so I even have it where they're introduced from the moment they're entering the clinic. And so when we're in class, I'm like, you remember in your orientation packet where you started reading about being pragmatic? All right, so let's start talking about it. And it's because that's what it needs to be. They literally all need to look within themselves and
Yeah.
see, like, oh, within AA, it works for me, but maybe up until this point.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't work for me at all. Or, it maybe is this, but with a different sponsor. So they really need to just constantly, and one of the biggest tools I also teach that goes with all this is asking questions. Like the same way that you mentioned that I have to be willing to ask the questions, I always throw it back to them. Like, have you asked? Have you asked any questions to see, how, does it feel light for you? So it's a lot of those type of conversations. And they've also mentioned to me, because many of them, it takes almost a year to really, really be able to give your brain the time to detox and to
Yeah.
reset yourself. So many times, some of the programs are only 30 days or are only like 90 days. And so what they do for themselves is they'll jump into another one. And then after they're done with that one, they'll jump into another one for at least up to a year until they really feel ready. And so what I've loved is that when they get to us, they're like, this is different. And even the rest of the participants, the clients, they'll look at them and they'll be like, oh, get ready. Like this is not what's available at most clinics. This is very different. What Vanessa brings is very different. And the different is everything related to access consciousnness. Like really, it's just been a gift. It's been a gift to recovery.
That's so cool. Hey, I want to ask you about when I stopped drinking and, I started with AA, I had this sponsor and I'll put it nicely, he was a total asshole. Okay. I mean, I am beyond grateful for this man. One of the things that he taught me was, he was like, look, you're going to call me every day. I don't care how you feel. I don't care what's going on. You do not miss that phone call. You need to learn accountability. And so I did. I called him every day and I hated it because all I wanted to do was hide, but also it took away this place where I could weasel around things, like where I could find a shorter path, I guess. So what I want to ask is, like, well, let me say this first. I got that good at lying. I didn't even realize I was lying.
Oh, yes.
So with dealing with somebody who maybe has just stopped drinking or just stopped taking drugs, how have you noticed being with those people with, I guess, giving them so much space to choose with this?
So one of the biggest things that I push a lot as well, and I'll just name it. I push it. There's some things that I invite them to, and there's others that I really like. We got to do this, okay?
Yeah.
And one of them is vulnerability. Like I really, really, really try to spend a lot of time bringing it up constantly, because I tell them, if you're not vulnerable to look at what's really going on, what you're really telling yourself, what's really there, it's never going to change. It's like a shadow that's just in your space. And even though you're looking the other way, it's still there. Yeah. And so it's not until you're willing to actually look at it that you can do something with it. So when they're wanting to hide things or they're wanting to lie to themselves, or do anything like that. And that's where the asking questions helps a lot too. Because when I introduce it, I have a list. It's like maybe 20 of them. Okay. And I'll tell them, choose one that you feel right now would open so much awareness for you right now. Just think of where you're at in your life and really sense every question and see which one just like opens things for you. And many times the question that many of them choose is, what are you avoiding and what are you defending?
Wow.
Or what am I avoiding? What am I defending? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And so what does that create for you? And they're like, their head is spinning and they're like, so much. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look
Isn't
at
that interesting though, that those two questions, that gives me goosebumps, you even bringing that up, because that's the part that I see missing, is that, like, just even those two questions access the energetics of what addiction is. Straight up is, what are you avoiding and what are you defending? And just, wow, I love that it's the question they choose.
Yes. And I never for you to directly tie it to what addiction is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, in our conversation yesterday, I was like, it's so interesting because it's such a cycle. Like, I mean, I tried to get off that merry-go-round for many years. I really did. And I think any addict can relate to this. I actually put my all into trying to get off, but there is no off this merry-go-round. Sorry. Um, it was like you're on it for good, but the way that it worked and the way that I see it now was what was what was creating the addiction to begin with was everything that I was avoiding. So the addiction would be as if, well, if I can stay addicted, I can keep avoiding these certain energies, these things about myself that I don't want to look at. But it was in avoiding the things that I didn't want to look at that kept me addicted.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's a cycle. You named it. Yes.
Totally. And
Yeah.
and that was the thing. I guess if I remember a conversation with Gary Douglas early on in my sobriety, and he said, "Look, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done." And I was so grateful that he said that for me, even though I did not want to hear it at the time, because it was, and it has been, but that doesn't make it, something that should be anything but, uh, you know,
Yeah.
working towards something different.
Yeah. So you named two things that I would love to speak on, Brendan. So
Okay, let's do it.
when you brought up how, it's something that you realize that it's like it's not going away and it's lifelong.
Uh-huh.
So when I introduce tools, I tell them this isn't, a magic pill. Like, this isn't something that when you come out of here it's rainbows and butterflies forever after this. Like, things are gonna happen, people will pass away. Something can happen the way that the pandemic happened, on our planet. Like, all kinds of things can come up that you can't foresee. So you can't look at this being the only moment where you're fixing something. Like, this is where you have to reset yourself and step into being these tools. They're tools for life. They're no longer, it's not just for this moment, it's tools for life. And so I always tell them, like, this is why you have to learn them. And then when they have issues at their house, or anything going on, I'm like, cool, what else is possible? You get to practice. Now it's time
I
to
love
practice,
that.
so they look at me. And even when I've had drama show up in the clinic, they look at me because, they look to the facilitator to take control of the drama. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is an example of, everything I've been teaching you guys. So what tool could we use here?
Can
And
I
so
can I
yeah.
just say that that is a beautiful example of allowance right there?
Thank
Yeah, it
you.
is.
I've
I
been trying to
love
build
that.
that muscle, so thank you.
But again, that's the
Yeah.
willingness to be the space where it's like, "Hey, guys, we don't have to avoid this shit anymore."
Hmm.
The drama can come up, we don't have to avoid it.
Yeah, yeah. What can we use? What do we use with it? Because it's gonna come up.
Yeah.
So it's about empowering yourself with tools. And then the second thing that you said with the hardest thing, I wanted to speak on that too. Because from my point of view, okay, just from me
Mm.
being an outsider looking in, from my point of view, I feel like the experience of addiction is the maximum experience of the human experience,
Mhm.
the torture, just like all of, because even grieving, so much grief comes with it because you have to grieve a self that's no longer going to be there. So you have to let go of that self. So there's all these like human things, these human experience. So it's almost like these individuals signed up for, like, I want it all. I want to experience it all.
Yep.
Whatever this planet has to offer, let me experience it. Let me experience survival. Because so many of them also, I've told them, if we are ever in an apocalypse, I'm going to look for you guys. Because you guys know
So
exactly what to
true.
do. And I will feel so safe with you.
Yeah.
Because they really have gotten the foundation of surviving,
Yeah.
and so I tell them, okay, but we're done with that. Aren't we done with surviving? Are we ready for thrival now rather than survival? And I said, so it's not that all of that was wrong. Those were skill sets that you'll always have, come be whatever shows up on our planet, you will always have those skills accessible to you. And I'm like, but is that how we want to like live every single day? Like in this moment, let's change it up. Let's try something different. If you want different, you're asking for different. Well, guess what? You have to try something different. It's the definition of insanity. And so when you brought up the hardest thing, I'm like, yeah, I really admire everything they've been through and what it takes to be able to do recovery. I mean,
Yeah.
even just to do the addiction itself, but man, to come out of it and to really recreate yourself and really just build completely something new, it's admirable for me. Like it's a really cool experience to witness.
I love that. And I so get it, that thing with with addicts, like experiencing everything, and
Yes.
I saw this thing. Ben Affleck was, it was something on social media the other day where he was talking about addiction. Like I've watched, I really, because I admire it too. Me being one of the people who has been in recovery for quite a few years now, but I love seeing the stories of somebody kicking its ass, like somebody who really has got the light behind their eyes again. And I
Yes.
and I
Oh,
know I know without a doubt the work they have put in to get that and the choices they've made to get that. It brings tears to my eyes every time I see it. And
mhm.
Ben Affleck being this one guy who he struggled a lot with it. And I saw him on this thing the other day where he was like, "Look, I'll be honest, I found, basically what the cure to addiction is." And he was like, "And it's suffering." I was like, it's so true, because you suffer and you suffer and you suffer and you suffer until you get to a point and you're like, I don't want to suffer anymore.
That's the human experience.
Yeah,
Yes, suffering.
totally. It was like kind of a good way to put it. Like they would say, rock bottom is when you stop digging.
Wow, I like that. I had not heard that one before.
Yeah. I
Yeah, that's a
mean,
good one. That's a good one. And thank you for naming the light behind their eyes.
yeah.
Because genuinely, Brendan, that's why I'm in love with what I'm doing. And I never, you and I talked yesterday, this was not on a vision board. This was not
Yeah.
like something that I like planned on at all. And I'm in love with it. Like
Yeah.
I literally tell them, I love being here with you guys. I wake up in the morning and I just get so excited for what I'm gonna do, who's gonna light up today, because that's what the tools do. I mean, it like wakes them up in the moment. It gets them out of that autopilot and it gets them out of whatever they learned in their neighborhood, in their culture, in their, whatever it was. And it just like brings them back to like, wait, what? I mean, a common phrase that I hear often is, Vanessa, you're blowing my mind. And it's
I
so
love
much
that.
fun for me. I'm like, yes, another one.
Yes, I'm blowing your mind. That's good. Let's get rid of that thing.
Yes,
You know,
yes, yes.
I'm glad you brought that up too, the thing about the not having a vision board. And this is one of the things I admire about you and how you've created this is you started with one choice. It was one choice to
Mm,
just, okay, you made that choice, and then it matched an energy that you desired and the doors started opening.
yes.
Um, I want to say the same thing about sobriety, because one of the things that was really difficult for me in the beginning was I was just like get, trying to figure out how basically I was trying to look at sobriety as as something that I could get and then be done with, rather it be
Mm,
something that I would nurture, something that I would allow to grow, something that would be, in essence, me having more access to me,
mm.
and so the that one choice thing of just making, like you said, asking a question, making one choice to use a tool, not worrying about, how much am I going to want to have a drink tomorrow, or,
Absolutely.
smoke a pipe or do whatever tomorrow. What am I
Yeah.
choosing today?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. And that's kind of how I was introduced. Like whenever
Uh-huh.
someone is new in the group, I give the same speech. I always tell them, welcome. please get ready. Things are very different here, you know? And then they'll kind of like roll their eyes like, okay, yeah,
They'll be like,
sure,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, because
yeah.
they're so used to what, you know, the other programs have offered. And then I tell them one of the things that I need you to build a muscle with, okay, like something that I invite you to be open to is the idea of trying to get this right, or, you know, letting go of all the things that you've done wrong. And I said, because right or wrong, you know, it requires judgment, and anything can be right or wrong depending on who's judging it. And so I tell them what you really want to look at is creation. What do you want to create? Because they'll look at me like, what do you mean no right or wrong? Like, so all the things that I did like is okay, and for me to do it again. And I'm like, well, it depends. Is that what you want to create?
I
And then
love.
they're like, no, it's that easy. I'm like, it really is. Like, so what do you want to create? And whatever you want to create, all you got to look at is what choices are available to me that can create that. And you look at those choices and you choose one. And then if it works, cool, do it again. If it doesn't work, well, that didn't work. What else can I choose? And I tell
Yeah.
them, I'm gonna tell you this over and over and over again, because this is the new, you know, the rewiring that is required in your brain, so that you don't go back to the automatic things that you think were only accessible to you before. You know, and I tell them, because it really is about the what do you want to create. And literally yesterday, Brendon, I went to go see the facilitator that I told you about, you know, because I was
Uh-huh.
so excited about our conversation. And one of our clients was with her, a graduate, and he literally told me, he goes, Vanessa, I just got to tell you, you want to know which question has been really helpful for me lately? And I think it's because he was hearing her and I talk, you know, on the side. And
Uh-huh.
he comes up to me, he's like, I really use almost every day, what do I want to create today? Or what will this create? And I'm like, really? And he's like, yes. And he's like, so I just wanted to thank you for it, because that question has been everything for me. And I'm like, wow. And this was after my call with you.
Wow.
So my world yesterday was just opening up more and more. I'm just like, okay, this is where I need to be right now, and it's an absolute expansion for me, and it's so much fun. Whatever the future holds, you know, it's, but for now, I'm just going to continue choosing this, you know, until it changes, because it's just creating so much.
Well, you're a beautiful gift. I really want to acknowledge your difference, because I mean, I've talked to so many people about addiction, and there really is like there's an interesting. I mean, but I guess it's not just with addiction. Like if you look at the way that the world functions, there's so much that's based on here's the answer, here's how you
Hmm.
do it,
Hmm.
not let's empower you to know what's actually true for you here. And so the other thing I wanted to just bring up real quick was in our chat yesterday, in me talking about my journey, was that getting like the whole journey of sobriety really has been about me creating my life, because if I'm not doing that, then I might as well be drinking again. Like I
Yeah.
might as well be. I'm going to be miserable anyway. So I love that you're empowering them about, this thing with what do you want to create?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what it comes down to. You're resetting your life. It's actually
Yeah.
a beautiful place to be. And when I talk like this, they're like,
I
she's
love that you
crazy.
have that point of view.
Yeah.
That's so different. It is. I mean, what a beautiful place to be. It's like
Yeah.
you get to start again.
Yeah. Cool. And you get to see what, like, really not to do.
Yeah.
You know, the
You've
best way
already
to.
done that. You already know what that shit creates.
Exactly. You know, so to me, I look at them and I'm like, guys, what's in front of you is a canvas. What do you
Yeah.
want on it? Like, let's do it. You know, it's on you. It's up to you. And so and what's very interesting also, as it relates to creation, they even know, and they tell newcomers, okay, anyone that just arrived for the first time, they're like, just so you know, Vanessa has a lesson plan, right? She plans and has like a topic, but we hardly ever do it. And then the other person's like, okay. And they're like, because, you know, I always ask them a check-in question, you know, and I kind of,
Uh-huh.
I gauge the energy from their responses. And a lot of the responses will tell me, oh, they need to be reminded of this. Or, oh, I'm seeing a pattern of this. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about today. You know, or as we're unraveling a topic and we're talking about it, someone will be like, well, I'm really stuck on this, on how this applies to me here. And I'm like, let's do it. Are you willing to be vulnerable and let us use your, to guide us? And they're like, yeah, let me be the guinea pig. And so, and especially the women are really great at this. And so they even make fun of, or like we all have fun of my drawing abilities. I do stick figures and I do, because while I'm explaining, I draw all kinds of stuff,
Love that.
in order to kind of just give them like a visual and keep it engaging and keep it interactive. But even the class itself, like whatever it is I'm going to teach for the day, I have a plan, and sometimes it does end up going through, but it's very rare because I meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's
What
what's
a
also
gift.
fun about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That is awesome. So I want to put a shout out to anyone that, if anyone listens to this, if you see where this could be valuable, like if you know how we could get this into more of these clinics, more rehab
Yes,
places, more places that could use this with addiction, please reach out to me. You can get me on
yes,
email, info@brendonwatt.com. I will put in the show notes of this ways that you can get in touch with Vanessa and everything that she's contributing as well, because I mean, I would love, and I know you would too, this buzz in rehab.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
with
Oh
yes,
yes.
please.
Yes. And before we close, when you brought up how this can contribute to anyone else, for any other clinic or any just anybody, um, there is an individual named Jolanta in Pennsylvania. She reached
Mhm.
out to me 2 weeks ago. She's trying to get it out there in Pennsylvania. She's a bars facilitator. Messaged me after that testimonial video went out. It was
Uh-huh.
either that one or it was the Catalina, podcast. And she's like, I just I want in. She's like, how do I do this? How did you do it? And so her and I have been talking. We've already had 2 calls. So I'm just whatever it needs to be and however it needs to show up. But at the energy, just the invitation is there so that we can keep this moving, because these individuals, we talked about this yesterday also, how gifted these
Yeah,
individuals are and why so many of them fall into addiction, because no one told them or taught them or showed them you're actually really gifted. And
yeah,
because you didn't know what to do with it, you tried to shut it down, with addiction. But you are actually brilliant. And so, what are the possibilities for our planet if we can get more of these gifted individuals to rechannel their energy instead, or to be open to their power and their potency, and see it and use it in a way that could be a contribution to our planet. I mean, they are it.
oh, I love that question. Yeah,
Yes,
um,
yes,
totally.
yes.
So
Let's wake them
yeah,
up.
yes,
We
please.
need them.
Yeah, let's
Yes,
do it.
they're very
um
gifted.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to thank you again. You're just amazing.
Oh, thank you, Brendan. So
Yeah,
are you. I'm grateful to be here. Very, very grateful.
me too.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I am grateful for your presence. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend that might benefit from these conversations. For more resources, check out my website, brendonwatt.com, and what else is possible you have never considered.